Hi guys, welcome back. Today I really wanted to do a video all about my Disney character performer audition. I know before I went to auditions, I searched so many videos. I was watching them day in, day out, just because I wanted to know everything there was. I didn't want there to be any surprises, so I could be completely prepared. So I attend school at the University of Missouri, but the closest character performer audition to me for the fall 2019 tour season of the recruiters was in Chicago. So I woke up super early the day of the audition and I flew from St. Louis to Chicago. I hung out on the airport for a little while before I Ubered to the venue, which was like a 30-minute Uber maybe. And then I met up with a few people who were going to the audition in Target because it was right next door. So we kind of hung out at the Target Starbucks and I met some really sweet friends in the bathroom when we were changing and getting ready. And so we hung out there for a little while and then we walked over to the dance studio where the audition was being held. It was a huge studio and there were already a bunch of people there. And so we all got in line to get our numbers. And so I got my number. I believe I was number 37. I have it saved, but it's at school and I'm at home right now. But I still have it. I'm gonna keep it forever. And so we got our numbers and then we just were told to put our bags on the outside of the studio. And I met some new friends who had similar numbers to me. And then after they checked a bunch of people in, I believe there was probably 120 or so people at my audition, 130. Which I know was a lot smaller than some of the other auditions. They called us all out and the recruiters introduced themselves and then they began to teach us a parade march. It was super easy, maybe 3 counts of 8, just simple moves. And after we learned it, we went over it a bunch of times and then we lined up to do it across the floor. So we lined up on one side of the studio. There was 4 or 5 lines of people and they would have one group of the 5 go across, and then after they had done it through 3 times, I believe, the next group started. And so they kind of reminded you when to start and you were counting. And the recruiters were standing at the opposite side of the room, so you were walking towards them. So we practiced that and then we went across the floor, and then after all of the groups had gone across the floor, we were all told to sit down in the center of the studio and the recruiter read off all of the numbers that were going to be asked to say. And so this was the biggest cut for me, what I was most nervous about, just because if you're asked to stay for the second round, that's when you're starting to be considered to be a character performer. And so even if you're cut after the second round, you made it to that round, which means you could still be considered. They told us we were gonna take a few minutes break, and if your number wasn't called, then you were just asked to leave. They made the first cut before we learned another routine. They lined us all up based on number order, and when we got to the recruiter, we had to take our picture. They just took a headshot, and then you had to take off your number and hold it next to any tattoos you had. So I do have a tattoo. I have one right here. It says, "May all your wishes come true, Disney." Yay. It's me and my mom's matching tattoo that I got for my 18th birthday. So I held my number next to that tattoo and they took a picture of it just to see how big it was, if there would be any limitations, whatever, based on your tattoo and its placement. And so then we went to the Disney height measurer, if you will, and it's their specific device that they use to take your Disney height, and you filled out just a little sheet with your name, number, email, blah blah blah, and then we went on to learn a second routine. So for the second round, we were asked to come out again and we learned how to do a full-on animation. And so they taught us how to do that and we practiced, and then they taught us another little routine. It was to a song from Hairspray. It was super fun, made me miss dancing. And it wasn't difficult at all. There was one kick and there was one turn. They taught you how to do it though, so don't worry if you're not a dancer. They'll go through it step by step with you. It was just a single pirouette, but they told us if we were comfortable we could do a double. So I did a double, and it was just a pretty short routine. I don't remember how long it was, but definitely under a minute. And so we practiced that a bunch of times, and then we were asked to go into another studio to wait. And so then they called us in 5 numbers at a time, maybe 6 people at a time. But it just went in numerical order, and so we were waiting. And so, like I said, I was in the 30s, so I was probably like the 5th group maybe, just because some people had been cut in the first round, so there were fewer numbers, obviously. And so me and my friends were all in the same group. So we went in, and then we did the animation, I think just once, maybe twice. I'm sorry, I'm really fuzzy on all these details. It's currently the middle of April, and I auditioned March 6th, so it's been a hot minute. But anyways, so we did that once or twice, and then we did the dance twice. So they had us standing in 2 lines, and so we were in windows, and then you switched the second time you performed, and so you were in the front ones and the back ones, just to kind of make it fair. We had performed both the animation and the dance, and they said, we thank you guys so much, like, you are now in consideration for a character performer, but we do need these numbers to stay. And so they called 3 numbers, and it was me and my 2 friends, and so we were obviously ecstatic because, you know, one step further, it's just, you know, exciting. Everyone who was asked to stay was waiting in the other studio. So they called about 25 numbers, and my number was called. We went back into the studio that we auditioned in, and we performed the same dance a few times as they recorded us doing it. And then they asked a few more numbers to stay and said thanks to everyone else. And so they called 6 numbers, and they called mine. As you can imagine, I was screaming inside, and they also called my 2 friends that I had met. So the 3 of us that met as we were registering our numbers were still in it, still made it to the end. So it was so exciting, and we were all like within an inch of each other. And so we were, you know, the same height range, if you know anything about character performers. And so it was just really fun and exciting. And so the 6 of us that were remaining, we learned another more difficult routine. And so this routine, we were definitely all dancers who they had asked to stay, and so we learned a routine from Singing in the Rain, and it was just a little bit more difficult steps, you know, another kick, some more turns, just steps that you definitely need dance experience for. And so we did that. We learned it pretty quickly, performed it a few times, and they recorded us. And then they said, thank you so much, that is all, like, have a great rest of your day. And so by this time, it was probably like 5 o'clock maybe. My flight was in like 3 hours, so I was getting a little anxious as much as I was so excited to stay, you know. I didn't want to miss my flight. And the audition had started at 1 p.m. by the way. So yeah, that was my audition. And then when we were in that holding studio and they had called our numbers, again, there were a few other people, maybe like 15. And those people, I think, were being considered for face characters because they had to take a few more pictures and they had to read lines. So I am going to upload a picture right here. And like I said, I had on jazz shoes, but there's a lot of options like tennis shoes, socks. Some people might have gone barefoot. I can't really remember for my audition, but jazz shoes worked great. Any sort of like tight clothing, it definitely doesn't have to be dance clothes. I just wore, as you can see, leggings and like a semi-tight fitting t-shirt. And I wore my hair half up, half down. It's kind of messy in this photo, but it looked good when I first got there. I had my nose pierced, I also have my belly button pierced, and I have a bunch of ear piercings, but I took them all out for the audition, just for Disney look. I took my rings off, necklaces off, just to be safe. I didn't wear any of that. So just a little background on me. I am 20 years old. It was just 3 days after my 20th birthday when I got to fly to Chicago for this audition. And I have been a dancer my entire life, competitive. I dance competitively at my studio and on my high school's dance team, and I did club dance my freshman year in college, and I also get to dance through my sorority. So I'm still active a little bit, obviously not as I was before college, but I do have a lot of dance experience, but you do not need any dance experience to be successful in a Disney character audition. So like I said, I auditioned March 6th in Chicago, and then I found out It was about 2 weeks later. I don't remember the date, but of course, recruiter Christy tweeted that there was going to be a wave of acceptances for character performers. But then she also tweeted that there was going to be a wave of like NLICs, which I was terrified. So then like you don't even just want a Disney email, like you have to like read the email to see what it says. So of course I'm anxious, and I was sitting on my laptop all morning, and so I would see like an email pop up, but then I had to go to class. So literally put my laptop in my bag, and then I walked to class with my friend Molly, love you Malls. And so in that like 15 minutes of me putting my laptop away and walking to class, I must have gotten the email because I walked into my building, said bye to Molly, and then I went on to check my email, and there was a congratulations, your role has been updated. And so I of course started crying. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, and she was worried at first because I didn't tell her that there was a wave going out, so she thought something was wrong. And yeah, I'm crying. Called my boyfriend, told him we were all so excited, but then I literally had to go to class, and so I went to class with just the good news, and it was great day. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this is helpful. I know I loved watching these when I was trying to prepare for my audition, and have a magical day.